Hello, Mr. Ed here. Today is July 31st, 2020. And as you can tell, I'm standing in the back porch of the honey house here at St. Joseph Abbey. Today, I'm finally getting around to taking care of all of our honey supers that we had processed all of our honey from. There's 115 boxes back there, and they've been sitting out here for almost 6 weeks, or maybe a little better than 6 weeks. And I usually try to get to them a little quicker than this, but I mean, I just got so much stuff going on between the caskets, and we're doing construction and moving, and there's just so much stuff going on. I haven't been able to tend to the boxes right now. And one of the things that most people are very commonly aware of in Louisiana is our heat and our humidity, particularly in the summer months. And here we are going into August, which is our hottest month of the year and also our most humid. And what happens is, if I allow these boxes to stay out back here much longer, the mildew is just going to start growing on these boxes, because as good as an area as this is behind the honey house to protect from the rain coming down, as far as humidity, it doesn't offer much for that, because there's not a lot of wind movement, air movement in this area. So the humidity, the moisture will stay on the boxes, it'll stay on there, and then it'll start leading to mildew. And I'll show you some of these boxes where you can see where the mildew is starting to grow. And if it grows on the outside of the boxes, it'll certainly grow on the inside of the boxes, on the wax as well. Not that I'm real concerned about the mildew, because if there is any mildew on the wax, the bees clean all that stuff up. They're real good at cleaning up, and they're real forgiving about that. So I'm lucky for that. But I do want to get these things moved off the back porch and into position in the peacock house, where they'll stay the rest of until next spring. They'll stay there. What I'm going to be doing today is I need to get these boxes kind of like cleaned up a little bit. And the wax, after the bees have cleaned up these boxes, they go through it and they kind of damage a little bit more, and any wax that's on the frames already, all that stuff, all that loose wax now without honey to hold it together is falling down, and it's falling down through the boxes, and some of it's going all the way down to the bottom of the tray, some of it's still in the boxes themselves on the frames. So what I do is I kind of shake all that stuff out. I'll shake that out on a tarp, clean up some of that wax to get it out of there, and then collect it, because I'm going to keep and collect all my wax. I'm going to show you the wax on some of in the bottom of these trays. I'll show you that stuff, and I'll show you the process that I use to do it. It's really simple. It's just work, grunt work, to move all these boxes from one place to the other and clean up the back porch and get everything going. Now, one thing I will be doing that I have to do, I separate the boxes that had brood laid in them and then backfilled with honey. So when we were spinning the honey out, we separated those frames, and they're separated from all the frames that just had honey in them, because I don't want to keep the frames that had brood in them mixed with the honey frames, because the brood or the pollen attracts the moths, and then they will destroy the comb. So what I do is I will take those boxes, and I think that we have probably about 20 or so, maybe even more, of those boxes behind me, and those I'll just keep inside the honey house the entire time until the spring. That way they're not going to be susceptible to moth damage, and inside the honey house, that's not going to happen inside of there. But all the honey boxes, all the boxes that were strictly honey, they just go right into the peacock pen, and they'll stay there. Now, when I was just having 8-10 hives of bees, I would go ahead and take my boxes and put them right back on the hives and let them winter there all winter until the next spring. And with that few boxes, you can do that. But when we're running 150, 200 hives, it's just too much work, and it's repetitive work. And I'm not interested in doing a lot of work, but repetitive work, no, I don't want to do that. So for me, these boxes, if I was to put them back on our hives, come January, I'm going to have to take them off again. So there's no point in me putting these boxes back on our hives and then only to return them, because when we get down to the springtime, I only want two supers on my boxes so I can do my rotations. So I need to do something with my honey supers so they get stored. And then come springtime when I need them, when I'm building up the hives again, then I'll just take them out and reuse them again. It's just the way I do the handling of my honey supers. I'm not saying this is the right method for you, but for me it works very well. And there's been the issue addressed of, well, do you spread disease by not putting your same frames on the same boxes? Well, for me that's just an impossibility. So I've been doing this way now for 8-10 years with no problems with it. So I'll continue that practice. Until something happens that I'm not going to be able to continue that practice, I'll keep on doing it this way. It works very easy for me, and it works for me. I'm not saying this is your way to do it or the way to do it, but for me, it works very well. So before I get started, I want to show you kind of like how the mold is built, and I do have a little issue back there that I have to deal with even before I start moving these boxes and getting things moved up. It's early. It's right about 7:15 right now. I want to do this before it starts heating up and me getting all hot and sweaty. So by the grace of God, hopefully in about 2 hours, I'll have this job done. Our honey supers in the peacock pen and all our brood supers inside the honey house. Let's wrangle up some honey supers, huh? Now here's the little problem that I was talking about. And it's not that big of a deal, but it's still something I got to deal with even before I start moving these boxes. As you can see, one of our stacks of boxes has fallen, and it's fallen due to the little dolly underneath it. You see the dolly? These dollies are not the correct dollies I should be using for this process. And what happened on this one, the wind, something, it might have even been an animal, disrupted the balance, and pow, the whole thing fell. And when it fell against my table right here, which had the pollen feeder on it, and also at the other end I've got a beehive, and there's bees in it too, lots of bees. So even before I do anything this morning, I'm going to go ahead and take this box off of the table and set it on the ground temporarily, and then move the table, and then just move the box down onto the ground. Might take a little while for the bees to get oriented on where the box is, but they'll work it out. Getting back to these dollies, when we were bringing in our honey supers, we have to balance them because the dollies are really too small for this. So we would balance the boxes into the dolly. And when we were processing, we actually had 2 of our stacks fall over as we were pushing them. So it told me I've got to do something about these dollies. So check out this improvement that I've made on our dollies. So the problem with our dollies was that our wheelbase was too narrow for the boxes that we were putting on them. So to remedy that problem, Renee, being as smart as he is, got on the CNC and cut out pieces of plywood that when you put the piece of plywood together, it's this. And so our wheelbase moves from this little area to this little area right there, and with that area being that big, our boxes will never fall again. Yay! Done. So I've used different types of boxes because what happened, I did not have enough metal trays to catch it, so I built these wooden ones, and you can see in the bottom the wax that has fallen through the boxes and wound up into the bottom of that box. And so what I'm going to do today is just shake out these boxes on a tarp and collect my wax. You can see there's a lot more wax down in some of these than others. But there's a lot of wax. There is a lot of wax in these boxes that I need to collect. And also there's a bunch on the ground as well that I'll sweep up and gather, pick up. The wax is very important, so I try to keep and collect as much as I can. Look at all that on the ground right there. So that was a problem that I had with these wooden ones. The weight of the boxes separated the wood, and then that allowed that wax to fall out of it. But I'll get all that as well. All right, let's start moving some boxes. I'm going to start with the brood supers first, move them inside, and then start getting all these guys and moving them into the peacock hut. You know, I told you I wanted to get started before it got hot. Oh man, look at this. I'm already busted out sweating. So I tried to go ahead and move that hive before I started, but I'm going to need help doing that. There's no way. That thing is chock full of honey. It's probably got to weigh over 120, 130 pounds. So I'm going to have to get some help to do that. But so I can still get a lot of these boxes, work my way towards that disaster over there. So I'm going to start on the brood supers. The ones, well, I say brood supers. They were honey supers, but the queen had laid in these because I don't use an excluder. The queen had laid in the third box, and so we separated out all of these frames as we were processing the honey. And so I'll show you like this frame right here. So there you go. This frame, you can see where the brood was laid in it. And if I were to take this frame and leave it outside for much longer, the moths are going to get into it. We've been here 6 weeks, and you can see there's absolutely no damage to this comb at all. And since we've been here this long, there's no evidence whatsoever of wax being in here, but wax moths. But I'm still going to, when I bring these things in here, I'm going to rotate them out through my freezer, and I'll freeze each one of these boxes to make sure I kill each and every one of these, any of the eggs that are in here, or the larvae that are in here that hatched out. So I'm going to start with this top box right here, and like I said, all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take this box and I'm going to bounce it on my tarp right here just a couple of times, because I don't want to bounce it too hard because I don't want it to break the frames or the box, but at the same time I do want to knock any of the wax, the loose wax that's in there out, because one, I want to collect it, and two, otherwise when I put this super back on the hives come springtime, the bees are going to just drop all this stuff in the bottom of the box anyway. They're not going to use it. So I try to collect it and make less of a mess in the springtime for the bees and me to collect the wax right now. So I just bounce it just a couple of times, and so here's a wax moth that was in there, a little moth, and by bouncing it this way, any other critters that are in there, roaches, ants, it'll knock them out. But basically I want to clean the boxes out. So this one, you can see, this one had some wax moth in it. They're the smaller wax moth, not the big ones. But like I said, in the springtime when I go through all these things, I'll cull the ones that are, in my opinion, aren't good enough, and the ones that are good enough I will use. But for right now, they're all going to go inside the honey house. They're all going to get frozen, and they'll all be taken care of. So this one is done good enough. So I'm going to go through this whole stack right here. Bouncing them. Let me show you what one of these little wax moths looks like. If I can catch it well. This one is, there you go. So that's a little, what they call the lesser wax moth. And these are the ones that make the really small little cocoons in your boxes. But regardless, it still is a wax moth, and they still will destroy your hive, well, your comb at least. So these are what I'm trying to knock out of there right now, as well as any loose wax. It's just a couple of bounces to get them out, and as well as knock the wax down. Here's all the wax that was collected, and I can see some cocoons in there. But all this wax right here, when I process it, all this junk, all this dirt, all this stuff will collect in the water that the wax is sitting in, and it'll all filter out. Now this wax right here, because there's so much contamination in it, it'll be rendered separately from all our other cappings, because this is way too much garbage in here to be mixing in with our good wax. So all this is going to be rendered in a different batch. So let me dump this in the garbage can with my trash bag to collect it. Alright, that's all good. So just like all these boxes with all these frames, they're going to be put in the freezer and kill anything that's still active in them. So too, this entire bag of wax, when I finish doing this today and tomorrow, because I'm not going to get it all done today, all this will also go into the freezer as well to kill anything that's in there. So I always freeze the wax, freeze everything. I love freezing stuff because I know it kills everything out. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing all the brood supers, and then we'll move over into the honey supers. I'm telling you, it might only be about 85 degrees, but it's like 150% humidity. It is just miserable. I don't know if the video is showing it, but I put a fan out here just to move air on this back porch. It's stifling back here. It really is. So I went through all of the brood, the honeycomb that had brood laid in it, and they wound up with I think 27 boxes that we had. Out of the 115, 27 of them had brood laid in them. So 27 out of 115, I don't know the percentages of that, but in my book, that's way too low of a percentage for me to use an excluder. There's just no reason for it. And so that's why I don't use that excluder, because another piece of equipment that I don't want to use, another piece of equipment that I don't want to store, another piece of equipment that I'm going to have to work, so forget it. I'm not using excluders. Just for that little bit of aggravation of the queen moving up there, no, it's not worth it. So now all those are done, and I'm moving now into the honey supers. Now these were strictly frames, boxes full of frames that only had honey on it. Let me pull this over there and get you to look at it. So these are the, let me pull this whole box off here and show you. Because this is, now remember, these boxes have been sitting out here for 6 weeks now, and you saw that frame that had the brood on it, what happened. Now these frames, these strictly had honey, and there is no evidence whatsoever of moths in this. Now the roaches are still going to get in here because they're just sitting on the back porch, but moths and the destruction of the comb, no. So just to make sure that you didn't think well, that's just a random frame. I'll show you every one of these frames. Every one of these frames, and not a single one of these so far has wax moth on it. And they've been sitting outside here now for over 6 weeks. And the reason you don't see any wax moth in this, because there's no honey, there's no brood in it or pollen. So without the brood or the pollen on the comb, on the frame, the moths aren't interested in it. So these are relatively easy to clean up. Just just bounce them, scrape them out, blow, and then just load them. All the rest of these boxes, these are going to get loaded into the peacock bin, and where they're going to spend the winter and all the way into the spring. So let me go ahead and start getting all this stuff done. Guys, I'm telling you, look at this. I'm like the dirt rooster sweating out of here like this. It's really hot. I don't think the temperature is up to 90, but oh my gosh, it's just so stifling humid right here. But we're down to the last 3 sets of hive boxes right here, and these are the ones that were on the outside that you can see all the mildew that was growing on. And I want to see if the mildew had started to grow on the inside of the box. So let's go ahead and check to see how that looks. Now you can see the mildew is up on the top of the boxes. You can see that. Let's see if we got any on the inside of the frames. No, these frames are absolutely perfect. There is no mildew growing in this at all. You can still see the yellow from the honey on it, on this as well. So the mildew hadn't gotten down inside the box. It just had stayed on the outside of it, which is, I'm glad for that. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up all these other 18 boxes, and that'll be the wrap on all these things. So I'm going to get busy with that.
The next box in line, and you can see where the top box had lapped this, and where it was exposed, the mildew was on top, but anywhere where the box was sitting on top of it and protecting it, it's all brand new wood. So I think I got lucky on this one with no mildew. Looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, remember I said, oh, a couple hours? Well, here it is. It's got to be about 2:30 right now. I'm slap wore out. But all the boxes are done. We got the table got moved, the beehive got moved. I couldn't do that by myself. We got that moved. That's on the ground now. All of our boxes are gone. We still got these bees on the porch. These bees, I'm going to keep them on the porch for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to get rid of these bees. I love these bees back here. They're really nice bees. We come out here all the time, and they just don't never seem to find us. So let me grab the garbage can, show you the wax, and then we're going to go back into the peacock hut and show you how much we did our boxes. This is all the wax that I took out of the bottom of those trays. It's not a lot of wax, but it'll make a little block. So to me, I like saving as much wax as I can, so it was worth it to save this. And it was a lot of trouble, but yeah, it was worth it. So let's go ahead and let's go back now and look at the boxes in the peacock hut. Well, you can believe it. This is the effort of the work today. It's a lot. It really was a lot. I always underestimate how long things are going to take and what it's going to require to do it. But in the end, the job gets done, and I'm grateful that the job's over, and it did come out really good. So our boxes are now lined up, and this is where they're going to stay until the springtime. This building right here is just ideal for this continuous flow of air through here. We get enough light during the day to keep the moths out, and it's all screen wired to allow or not allow the possums and the coons, the bigger critters, to come in. The rats, the mice, snakes, they can come in here, cockroaches, but the big guys that really disrupt our boxes, now they're not allowed to do it. So I believe that's all I got for you this one. So I'm glad it's over. So thanks for watching. Keep on watching. I'll be making more. God bless. Mr. Red, I'm out of here until the next video.
So let me show you why I can't render any wax right now. Because our kettle is now in storage right now. Now this is going to be a problem for a little while, but it's in storage right now, but eventually this kettle is going to be moved from where you see it right there to this spot right here where that shelf is and that cool looking old dolly right there. It's going to go in that position into the little honey house right here. And so you're wondering, well, how come you're moving the kettle, Mr. Ed? Well, let me show you that reason why. And now you know the reason why the kettle had to be moved. Because this building is not being torn down. We're repurposing the building. We're going to now be incorporating this building into the wood shops right here. And we're going to be connecting the two buildings with the passageway between them. And we're expanding our operation of caskets into this area right here. And it'll be production of the finishing, showroom, cemetery office, spray room and storage of our caskets in this area. And the kettle was at this position right here. This is where my kettle used to be, and it had to get out of here to make room for all of what is going to be. Right where another one of those old dollies is, you can see that where the building was cut, that's going to be our connection between these two buildings. Is going to be at that spot right there. Since I shot the video, it's been, this video is in the making about a week, and so since then the gas line has been put in, and now it's run into the building. And then check this out. About that, the kettle is now set up, and with the kettle set up, the only thing we have left to do is to hook the gas line up. So we've got it stubbed into the building right there, and all we have to do is hook it up down there, and I'll be rendering wax. So you can count on seeing a rendering wax video shortly, and I really do want to process some of that capping wax. Now our stack. Listen to that. That's all right. You did that on purpose, huh?
Where's your phone?
It's in my back pocket.
Check it.
It's on.
Check it. See who you've been calling.
It's so small compared to their boxes, which. That guy ain't right, man. That guy ain't right. That's right. I'm turning it off now. Okay, now it's really on. All right, we can do this one more time.